They always told me staying single makes you bitter. But nobody knew the HOA president called me back that night. And I got my shoulder bruised for speaking out of turn. Nobody knew I kept that recording for 9 months. Nobody thought my sister's wedding day would be when I hit play on the speaker, but I kept my word. Stay single, she said. My name is Sabrina Hayes, and I've been running from manicured lawns and violation notices for 15 years at 34. I analyze data patterns for Summit Analytics in Denver. Numbers don't lie. They don't judge. And they certainly don't slap you with a $250 fine because your mailbox flag is half an inch too high. But here I was, driving my Subaru back to Evergreen Pines, Colorado, where the HOA welcome sign still throws its shadow over every blade of grass and every decision a woman makes. The community hadn't changed. Main Street still had that overpriced community cafe next to the mandatory beige mailbox row, and the massive clubhouse dominated the skyline like it owned the air we breathed. Population 4,200 behind the gates, but on weekends it felt like every soul was watching you from behind their perfectly trimmed hedges. I parked outside Mom's house, the same cookie-cutter two-story with the HOA-approved navy shutters, where I'd learned that silence was safer than truth. The lawn was immaculate now, edged with those tacky welcome stones Frank insisted on. Frank Klein, my mother's third husband and the HOA board's most devoted rule enforcer, the man who'd moved in 5 years ago with his clipboard and violation log, acting like God himself had appointed him to save our broken family from fines. Sabrina, my half-sister Tanya, burst out the front door, all blonde curls and practiced smiles. 26 and still bouncing like she was auditioning for HOA social chair. Different fathers, same mother, but you'd think we were from different planets. I can't believe you actually came. I grabbed my overnight bag, already regretting the 3-hour drive. You're getting engaged. Of course I came. She squealed and pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and expensive HOA-approved air freshener. Behind her, Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing one of those pastel floral dresses that screamed, respectable community woman. Her hair was grayer now, pulled back in the same tight bun she'd worn since marrying Frank. Sabrina, you're late. Traffic, I lied. I'd actually sat in a Starbucks parking lot for an hour steeling myself for the rules. Inside the house was a shrine to suburban conformity. Beige walls, HOA-approved neutral throw pillows, and family photos where everyone's smile looked photoshopped for compliance. The living room had been redecorated in Frank's taste. Everything pure, clean, and fine if it wasn't. Frank emerged from his study, all 6 feet of clipboard authority. His hair was silver now, slicked back, and he wore his HOA board pin like a medal. Well, the prodigal daughter returns. Frank, I kept my voice neutral, the same tone I used for difficult clients. Still no ring on that finger. I see. His eyes did that concerned but condescending thing. 34 is getting up there, Sabrina. Even the community guidelines say families thrive with stability. I have a career. Careers don't keep the lawn at 2.5 inches or give you grandchildren. He settled into his recliner like a king on his throne. But you're here for Tanya's blessed announcement, so let's not dwell on deficiencies. Tanya bounced between us like a butterfly trying to prevent a storm. Derek's coming for dinner. You'll love him, Brina. He's everything a woman could want. Derek Langford. I'd done my research. Victoria Langford's only son, 28, HOA Youth Events Coordinator. Social media showed a handsome face with perfect teeth, always surrounded by giggling teens from the leadership retreats. Something about those photos made my skin crawl. The doorbell rang at exactly 6. Punctual, godly, perfect. Victoria Langford entered first, and the room shifted around her like she had her own gravitational pull. Tall, broad-shouldered in a pastel blazer, silver temples, eyes that seemed to scan for violations before you committed them. Her husband followed, faded and quiet. Then Derek, all dimples and confidence, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than most families' monthly dues. Sister Patricia, Brother Frank. Victoria's voice filled the room like a gavel. Her handshake with Frank lasted too long. Some kind of HOA power ritual. Then those eyes landed on me. And this must be Sabrina, the career woman. The way she said career woman made it sound like a code violation. That's me. I smiled tight. The one with the 401k and no 3-day grass warning. Derek laughed too loud. She's funny, Tanya. You didn't tell me she was funny. He wrapped an arm around my sister's waist. Possessive. Tanya melted into him like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to claim her. Dinner was a performance. Mom served pot roast while Frank led us in a prayer that felt more like a board meeting. Victoria held court, telling stories about the community's growth, the new pool upgrades, the importance of traditional family values in these troubled times. Of course, a wedding at the Evergreen Pines Clubhouse is more than just a ceremony, Victoria said, cutting her meat with surgical precision. It's a testament to the community. A proper HOA union requires proper HOA support. Whatever Tanya wants, I said, pushing peas around my plate. How generous. Victoria's husband spoke for the first time. Whisper soft. Family support is so important, especially financial support. In these times there it was, the ask. I caught Mom and Frank exchanging glances. Sabrina has done very well for herself in Denver, Mom said quickly. Senior analyst position, very lucrative. Victoria said it like she was identifying a weed. Must be lonely work. All those numbers. No human connection. I connect with humans fine. I just prefer them honest. The table went silent. Derek's dimples disappeared. Tanya's hand found his under the table. Victoria agreed, tone shifting to her enforcement voice. Honesty is important, but so is knowing one's place in the community guidelines. Some are called to marriage and family, others to different paths. The important thing is not to let pride convince us our path is superior. Frank added eagerly, Victoria's giving a presentation on community harmony next month. You should come. Sabrina. Might give you some perspective. I smiled sweet enough to rot teeth. I'll check my calendar. Those spreadsheets can be so demanding. After dinner, the men retired to Frank's study to discuss engagement details. Mom and Victoria disappeared into the kitchen. Tanya pulled me onto the back patio, eyes shining with rehearsed tears. Why do you have to be like this? This is my moment, my chance at happiness. Can't you just pretend for me? Pretend what? That I'm thrilled you're marrying into the HOA dynasty of Evergreen Pines. She grabbed my hands, squeezed too hard. Brina, I need this. I need them to approve. And they won't if you keep being you. Being me? You mean having opinions, a job, a spine. You know what I mean. She dropped my hands. Mom and Frank already talked to me about the wedding costs. It's going to be expensive. The kind of wedding the Langfords expect. So, you're my sister, my only sister, and you make 6 figures doing whatever you do with computers. And what does my salary have to do with your wedding? She looked at me like I was stupid. Family helps family. That's what Victoria says. And since you don't have your own family to support, the words hung like a violation notice. Inside, I heard the men laughing, probably planning how to spend money they didn't have on a wedding designed to impress people who measured grass with rulers. Mom appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand, watching us with calculating eyes. Come inside, girls. It's getting cold. But I was already frozen. Not from the Colorado air, but from the realization I'd driven 3 hours back to a place that would never see me as anything more than a bank account with inconvenient opinions. Tanya wanted her fairy tale wedding. Mom wanted social status. Frank wanted to prove his stepdaughters were proper community women. And the Langfords? They wanted an empire built on dues and expectations. I followed them inside, already counting the hours until I could leave. But something in Victoria's smile as she shook my hand goodbye made my skin crawl, like she already knew I'd be trouble. Like she already had a plan for dealing with it. 3 months. That's how long the engagement circus lasted. And every weekend I found myself driving back to Evergreen Pines like a moth to a fine. Not because I wanted to, but because the guilt trips were Olympic-level performances. "Sabrina, your sister needs you," Mom would say on the phone, voice dripping manufactured disappointment. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for our family, as if we'd ever been that." The truth was uglier and simpler. I'd been Tanya's meal ticket since she was 18, 2 jobs, data entry during the day, freelance at night just to keep her in community college every semester. I'd written checks that left my own account gasping. Mom had called it what sisters do for each other. Funny how that street only ran one way. Now I sat in the community cafe watching Tanya flutter around showing her ring to anyone with eyes. 2 carats princess cut. Probably cost more than a year of the tuition I'd paid. Derek sat beside her, one hand possessively on her thigh, scrolling through his phone with the other. "The clubhouse rental alone is $20,000. Tanya was saying to her friend Madison, loud enough for the whole cafe to hear. "But Derek's family has connections. Victoria says it's important to show the community what a proper HOA wedding looks like. $20,000. Madison's eyes went wide. "Girl, that's a house down payment. It's an investment in our community standing," Derek said without looking up. "Mom says our wedding will set the standard for the next generation. Show these young people what they should aspire to." I stirred my black coffee and bit my tongue until it bled. "Brina," Tanya waved me over like I was the help. "Tell Madison about your job. She doesn't believe data analysts make that much." Madison, all fake tan and real judgment, looked me up and down. "You're the sister who lives in Denver. The single one. Guilty on all charges. Must be nice," she said, tone suggesting the opposite. "All that money and no one to spend it on but yourself." "Brina's been so generous with family," Tanya jumped in, squeezing my arm hard enough to bruise. "Haven't you, sis? She paid for my entire education. Every penny." "Wow." Madison's smile could have curdled milk. "And still no husband. Maybe you should spend some of that money on a dating coach." Derek finally looked up, his eyes doing a slow scan of my body that made me want to shower. Different women have different values. Some prioritize family, others material success. "Speaking of family values," I said, voice steady as my hand wasn't. "How's the youth program?" Derek still doing those overnight leadership retreats with the teenage girls. His face went cold. Tanya's nails dug deeper. "The youth ministry is thriving," he said slowly. "We provide guidance to young women who lack proper role models. Something you'd understand if you attended community events." "I understand plenty." "Do you?" He leaned forward and I smelled his cologne. Something expensive and suffocating. "Because from where I'm sitting, you understand numbers and spreadsheets. My Tanya understands people, hearts, souls. That's why she'll make such a perfect community wife." My Tanya, like she was property he'd acquired. "She'll be perfect at whatever she chooses," I said. "Oh, I've already chosen." Tanya's voice was bright, brittle. "I'm leaving nursing. Derek says community wives shouldn't work outside the home. It sends the wrong message." The cafe seemed to tilt. "You're quitting after everything?" I stopped myself. "After everything I sacrificed to put you through school." "It's not quitting," she said defensively. "It's choosing a higher calling. Victoria says educated women make the best mothers because they chose family over career." "How progressive." Madison excused herself, probably to spread this gossip like a violation notice. Derek's phone rang and he stepped outside, leaving Tanya and me in our toxic little bubble. Don't. Her voice was low, fierce. Don't you dare ruin this for me. Ruin what? Your chance to be a 1950s housewife with a nursing degree you'll never use. My chance to be loved. The words came out loud enough to turn heads. She lowered her voice, but the damage was done. Do you know what it's like being the girl whose sister is too good for everyone? Too smart, too successful, too independent? Do you know how many guys dumped me because they met you and felt inadequate? That's not my... It is your fault. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her eyes were hard. Everything is about you, even my engagement. Mom and Frank spend half their time apologizing for your choices, your lifestyle, your refusal to just fit in. And now at my wedding, everyone will be looking at you, the bitter spinster sister who couldn't find a man. Is that what you think I am? It's what you are. She wiped her tears with a practiced motion. But you can still help. You can still make this right by paying for your $20,000 pageant. She pulled out her phone, showed me a spreadsheet. Of course she'd made a spreadsheet. I've itemized everything. Venue, catering, flowers, dress, photographer, videographer, band, invitations, the works. 90,000 total. I laughed. Couldn't help it. 90,000? Are you insane? The Langfords have a reputation to maintain. This isn't just our wedding. It's an investment in the community. Yeah, I heard. I stood, grabbed my purse. And what's my investment in this? What do I get out of bankrupting myself for your show? She looked at me like I'd asked what I got out of breathing. You get to see me happy. You get to be part of something bigger than yourself for once. You get to prove that family means more than money by giving me all your money. By giving me what I gave you. She stood to. Support, sacrifice, love. I supported your career. Sacrificed my time with you. Loved you. Despite everything you are. The cafe was definitely watching now. Despite your selfishness, your pride, your refusal to just be normal. I'm asking for one thing, one gesture to show that I matter as much as your precious independence. Derek appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene with calculating eyes. He moved to Tanya's side, arms sliding around her waist like a snake. Everything okay, baby? We were just discussing the wedding finances, Tanya said, leaning into him. Brina's still thinking about her contribution. He smiled at me. All teeth. Well, I'm sure she'll do the right thing. Family is family after all. And we'll all be family soon. The threat in those words was subtle as a hammer. I left them there, Evergreen Pines golden couple, and drove back to Denver, breaking every speed limit. My phone exploded with texts before I even hit the county line. Mom, Tanya is in tears. How could you embarrass her like that? Frank, your sister's happiness should matter more than your bank account. Community Guideline 4.2. Tanya, I'm sorry for what I said. Please don't punish me for being emotional. You know I love you. Mom again. Frank says we need a family meeting this Sunday after the board meeting. Tanya again. Derek's family is asking about our contribution. Please don't make me look poor. And finally, from an unknown number. This is Victoria Langford. I believe we should discuss your concerns about Derek privately. Call me at your convenience. Some things are best handled with discretion. I pulled over at a rest stop and stared at that last message until the words blurred. Concerns about Derek. Privately. Discretion. My hands shook as I typed back. I have no concerns. Congratulations on the engagement. His response was immediate. Wise choice. I look forward to welcoming you to our extended community. Your generosity will be remembered. I'm sure. I sat there in my car, engine running, watching families pile out of minivans for bathroom breaks and snack runs. Normal families. Families where love didn't come with a price tag and threats didn't come wrapped in HOA bylaws. But I'd never had a normal family. I'd had a mother who saw me as an ATM, a sister who saw me as competition, and now a future brother-in-law who saw me as a problem to be managed. And somewhere in Evergreen Pines, Victoria was probably already planning her next board presentation about the prodigal daughter who found her way back to community values. 90,000. That was the price of admission to remain in their good graces. I started driving again, but I wasn't heading home. I was heading to Best Buy because if they wanted my money that badly, they were going to earn it and I was going to make sure I got my money's worth. The family meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. Sunday, right after the HOA board session. I arrived at 1:45, parking my car strategically facing the exit. Inside, Mom had set the living room like a tribunal. Frank in his recliner, Mom on the couch, Tanya curled up in the love seat like a wounded bird. The coffee table held Frank's worn HOA rulebook and a yellow legal pad covered in his blocky handwriting. "Sit," Frank commanded, pointing to the hardback chair they'd positioned in the center. The interrogation seat. I sat, crossing my legs, keeping my voice steady. "This feels dramatic for a wedding budget discussion. This is about more than money," Frank said, his board pin catching the light. "This is about your attitude. Your hostility toward Tanya's blessed union." "I'm not hostile. I'm practical. 90,000 is..." "Victoria called me yesterday." Frank's voice dropped to his serious violation tone. "She expressed concerns about your interference." My stomach clenched. Interference. "You questioned Derek's character in public at the cafe." Madison's mother told 3 people who told 3 more by Wednesday night board meeting. The entire community knows that Sabrina Hayes thinks their youth coordinator is inappropriate. I asked about the retreats. That's all. You implied impropriety. Frank stood, pacing like a prosecutor. Do you have any idea what that kind of gossip could do to a man of the community, to his programs? If asking a simple question threatens his programs, maybe. Frank's hand slammed the rulebook. You will call Victoria. You will apologize. And you will contribute appropriately to your sister's wedding. Or you're no longer welcome in this family. The words hung there, heavy as a lien. Tanya hadn't looked at me once, just stared at her manicured nails like they held the secrets of the universe. That's the ultimatum? I kept my voice level. Pay up or get out. Don't be dramatic, Mom said. We're asking you to support your sister, to be part of this family's advancement in the community. The Langfords are offering us a place in their inner circle. Do you know what that means for our standing? Your standing, I corrected. I live in Denver. Remember, by choice. Mom's composure cracked. You ran away to that godless city, leaving us to make excuses for your lifestyle. Single at 34, no prospects, no community involvement, no family values, and now when we finally have a chance to redeem our reputation through Tanya's marriage, you want to destroy it with your jealousy. Jealousy? I laughed short and sharp. You think I'm jealous of Tanya? Of course you are. Tanya finally spoke, her voice small but cutting. I have everything you threw away. A man who loves me, a community that respects me, a future with meaning beyond spreadsheets and empty apartments. Is that what you tell yourself? It's what everyone knows. She uncurled, meeting my eyes for the first time. Poor Sabrina. Too proud to settle down, too damaged to trust love, too bitter to celebrate her sister's happiness. Damaged. From Dad leaving. The words were calculated. Aimed to wound. You never got over it. Never forgave Mom for remarrying. Never accepted Frank's authority. And now you're trying to sabotage my wedding because Derek represents everything Dad wasn't. Stable, community-minded, committed. The armchair psychology might have been laughable if it hadn't been so clearly rehearsed. They'd discussed this, planned this intervention, scripted my psychological profile to justify their money grab. Interesting theory, I said. Here's mine. You're marrying a man you've known for 3 months because he's the HOA president's son, and it makes you feel special. You're quitting a career you worked for because thinking is harder than submitting. And you want my money because deep down you know this whole show is built on sand. Frank moved fast for a big man. One moment he was by the window, the next he was looming over me, his face purple with rage. You will not speak to your sister that way in my house. Or what? I stood, forcing him to step back. You'll throw me out? I thought that was already the plan. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. I turned toward the door, done with their games. Frank's hand clamped on my shoulder, spinning me around. I stumbled, catching myself on the coffee table and knocking over Mom's ceramic angel collection. You disrespectful. Frank's hand raised, and I saw the moment he realized what he was about to do. His arm froze midair, trembling with the effort of restraint. But I'd already seen it. We all had. Frank. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Please. He lowered his arm slowly, breathing hard through his nose. Call Victoria. Apologize. Make this right. I straightened, my shoulder throbbing where he'd grabbed me. I need to use the bathroom. Nobody stopped me as I walked down the hall, my legs surprisingly steady. In the bathroom, I locked the door and pulled out my phone. Victoria's number was still in my recent texts. I hit call. Sabrina, she answered on the second ring like she'd been waiting. I'm glad you've reconsidered. I'd like to discuss my concerns, I said quietly. Privately, as you suggested. Wise choice. Tomorrow evening, my office at the clubhouse, 7 p.m. Come in through the side entrance. No need to involve others in our discussion. I'll be there. Excellent. And Sabrina, I trust you'll be reasonable. Your sister's happiness depends on it. The threat was polished smooth, but it was still a threat. I ended the call, splashed cold water on my face, and returned to the living room. They hadn't moved, frozen in their positions like a twisted community portrait. I've arranged to meet with Victoria, I announced. We'll discuss everything then. Relief flooded Mom's face. Tanya actually smiled. Frank nodded approval, settling back into his throne. Good, he said. That's the first sensible thing you've done. Family supports family. Sabrina, it's time you remembered that. I gathered my purse, needing to leave before I said something I couldn't take back. At the door, Tanya called out, Brina, I do love you, despite everything. Despite conditional love wrapped in conditions. I know, I said, not turning around. That's the problem. Outside, the Colorado sun felt harsh after the dimness of their judgment chamber. I sat in my car, engine running, and pulled up the recording app I downloaded at Best Buy. A tiny Bluetooth microphone, no bigger than a button, was still recording from inside my purse. I stopped it, saved the file as Sunday Intervention, and uploaded it to my cloud storage. Then I called my boss. Hey Sandra, I need to work from home for the next few weeks. Family situation. Everything okay? I watched Frank's shadow move past the living room window, probably already calling Victoria to report my compliance. It will be, I said, one way or another, because I'd learned something valuable in that living room. They didn't just want my money. They needed it. Needed it to buy their way into the Langford dynasty. To prove they belonged in the inner circle of Evergreen Pines HOA royalty. And need, I'd learned in all my years of data analysis, was just another word for weakness. Tomorrow night I'd walk into Victoria's office with my checkbook and my questions. But I'd also walk in with my little button microphone and the knowledge that sometimes the best investment isn't in building something up. Sometimes it's in documenting exactly how it falls apart. The bruise on my shoulder throbbed as I drove away. Frank's raised hand burned into my memory. He'd stopped himself this time, but men who raise their hands in anger rarely stop for long. And when he finally didn't stop, when that hand finally made contact, I'd make sure the whole community heard about it. Family supports family, Frank had said. But sometimes the best support you can give is showing everyone exactly what kind of family they really are. That night I couldn't sleep. My Denver apartment felt like a sanctuary and a prison. Safe from Evergreen Pine's judgment but echoing with the weight of what was coming. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, the Best Buy receipt beside me like evidence of a crime I hadn't committed yet. The surveillance equipment had cost me $847. Professional grade, the eager sales kid had promised. Journalists used these. Lawyers too. Crystal clear audio. Upload straight to the cloud. I'd bought 3 sets. Now I laid them out like a general planning a war, button microphones that looked like shirt studs, a recording device disguised as a car key fob, and a voice-activated recorder slim enough to slide behind a picture frame. Each piece felt heavier than its weight in plastic and circuits. My phone buzzed. Tanya, thank you for agreeing to meet Victoria. I knew you'd do the right thing. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my cloud storage and created a new folder, Family Meetings. The Sunday intervention file sat there. 47 minutes of Frank's rage and Mom's ice and Tanya's calculated wounds. I played a snippet just to test the quality. You will not speak to your sister that way in my house. Crystal clear. Just like the sales kid promised. Monday crawled by. I pushed through spreadsheets and client calls, my mind elsewhere. Sandra noticed. You sure you're okay? This family thing. It's complicated, I said. Small town drama. You know how it is. She laughed. Girl, I'm from Texas. I wrote the book on small town drama. You need anything, you call me. At 6:30 p.m. I drove back to Evergreen Pines. The town looked different in the dying light. Shadows longer, edges sharper. The clubhouse loomed against the sunset like a fortress, its flagpole piercing the orange sky. I parked on a side street, clipped the button mic inside my blazer, and slipped the key fob recorder into my pocket. The side entrance was unlocked just as Victoria had promised. The hallway smelled of lemon pledge and fresh-cut grass. Her office was at the end, door slightly open, warm light spilling out. Come in, Sabrina. She sat behind a massive oak desk, certificates covering the wall behind her like shields. A leather HOA rulebook lay open before her, gold-edged pages catching the lamplight. She'd staged this scene carefully. The devoted president interrupted in her duties. Please sit. She gestured to the chair across from her, lower than her own. Another power play. Can I offer you anything? Water? Coffee? I'm fine. Of course you are. She smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. You're always fine, aren't you? Independent, self-sufficient, admirable qualities in moderation. You wanted to discuss my concerns about Derek. No, she closed the rulebook with deliberate care. I wanted to discuss your lack of concerns. Your compliance. I kept my face neutral. I don't understand your text message. I have no concerns. Yet just days before you were implying impropriety about the youth retreats. She leaned back, fingers steepled. That suggests someone spoke to you, convinced you to reconsider. I'm curious who has that kind of influence over someone so independent. My family helped me see I was being unfair. Your family? She savored the words. Frank mentioned you had a productive meeting. Said you were ready to support Tanya's wedding appropriately. I want my sister to be happy. Do you? She stood, moving to the window that overlooked the parking lot. Or do you want to appear to want that? There's a difference, you know, between genuine support and performed compliance. My skin prickled. This wasn't the conversation I'd expected. I'm not sure what you're asking me. She turned back, lit by the window. I'm asking if you're recording this conversation. The words hit like ice water. I forced myself not to touch the button mic, not to glance at my pocket. Why would I do that? Because you're smart, analytical, and you don't trust easily. She moved closer, perching on the edge of her desk. All excellent qualities for a data analyst. Less helpful for a sister of the bride. I'm here to apologize for my comments about the retreats. They were inappropriate. Yes, they were. Her voice hardened. Do you know why I insisted on those overnight events? Why I put my son in charge of them? I shook my head. Because this generation is lost. Sabrina. These young girls, they're bombarded with messages about independence, careers, sexual liberation. They need guidance, protection, a firm hand to show them the proper path. And Derek provides that. Derek understands his role. He'll guide Tanya the same way, firmly, with love, toward her proper place. She smiled again, colder this time. Your sister is lucky. Not every woman finds a man willing to take on such responsibility. The implications slithered between her words. I gripped my purse tighter. About the wedding costs. 90,000. She returned to her chair. A reasonable investment in your sister's future. Unless you'd prefer to discuss unreasonable alternatives. She opened a drawer, pulled out a manila folder. I've been president here for 23 years. In that time, I've counseled many families through difficulties, helped them find appropriate solutions to inappropriate problems. I don't have any inappropriate problems. Not yet. She opened the folder, revealing printed screenshots, my LinkedIn profile, my apartment complex's website, photos from my company's last holiday party, me laughing with male colleagues, a glass of wine in hand. But problems can be created, can't they? A single woman living alone in the city, drinking with men who aren't her husband, working late, traveling for business. Some might say that's a lifestyle that invites misinterpretation. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you about how quickly a reputation can change, how easily a narrative can be shaped. Your company, for instance, they value their corporate image, don't they? Would hate to receive concerned calls about an employee's moral character. The room felt airless. This is about more than money. Everything is about more than money. She pulled out a contract. This is a pledge form. 90,000, to be paid in installments if needed. Sign it. Support your sister publicly and enthusiastically, and we'll all be family. Refuse, and you'll destroy your career. I'll share my concerns. What people do with those concerns is their business. She slid the contract across the desk. But I'm confident you'll make the wise choice. Data analysts are good with cost-benefit analysis. Aren't they? I picked up the contract, scanning the terms. It was legally binding with penalty clauses for non-payment. Professional extortion dressed in wedding bells. I need time to review this. Of course. You have until Friday. The engagement party is Saturday. We'll need to announce the family's generous support. She stood, extending her hand. I'm glad we could have this honest conversation. Sabrina. I shook her hand. Her grip too firm, held too long. One more thing, she said as I reached the door. Your phone. May I see it? My heart hammered. Why? Call it presidential intuition. I like to ensure our private conversations stay private. I pulled out my phone, showed her the dark screen. She nodded, satisfied. Not recording. Good. But perhaps next time leave it in your car. These devices can be activated remotely. Can't be too careful these days. The walk back to my car felt endless. I kept my pace steady, normal, even as my mind raced. In the safety of my Subaru, I pulled out the key fob recorder and checked the display. 93 minutes of crystal clear audio, including her threats, her implications about Derek, her admission about shaping narratives and destroying reputations. I drove to a 24-hour McDonald's 2 towns over before I dared to upload the file. President's office Monday night. Then I sat in the parking lot eating fries I couldn't taste and made a decision. They wanted 90,000. Fine. I'd start the paperwork for a loan tomorrow, play their game, sign their contracts, smile at their engagement party. But I'd also keep recording every conversation, every meeting, every threat wrapped in community standards and tied with a welcome bow. Because data analysts were good with more than cost-benefit analysis. We were excellent at pattern recognition, at building data sets, at waiting for exactly the right moment to present our findings. The bruise on my shoulder from Frank's grip had turned purple. I took a photo of it in the McDonald's bathroom, adding it to my growing digital file. Evidence, documentation, protection. Because Victoria was right about one thing, I didn't trust easily. And I was about to show her exactly why that was the smartest thing about me. The engagement party invitation arrived Wednesday morning. Heavy cream cardstock with gold embossing, celebrating the future union of Derek Michael Langford and Tanya Marie Klein. I ran my finger over the raised letters, calculating the invitations alone must have cost $2,000. Money I hadn't even agreed to give yet. My phone rang. Mom, did you get the invitation? Aren't they gorgeous? Victoria has such exquisite taste. I got it. Says the party's at the Clubhouse Grand Ballroom. 200 guests. Full catering. Live band. The Langfords are sparing no expense. Lucky them. Sabrina, you met with Victoria. I trust that conversation was productive. She made her expectations clear. Good. Then you'll handle the deposits this week. The clubhouse needs $12,000 by Friday. Tanya has the account information. $12,000 by Friday? I kept my voice flat. And you're just assuming I agreed to this. You're still part of this family, aren't you? The question had teeth. The engagement party is the first impression. It sets the tone for everything. Unless you want Tanya walking into that ballroom knowing her own sister doesn't support her. I stared at my laptop screen where my bank balance mocked me. I had the money, years of living below my means, saving obsessively, but $12,000 was just the beginning. Send me the account information. I knew you'd come through. Oh, and wear something appropriate. Saturday. The blue dress you wore to the last board meeting would be perfect. Conservative, respectful. She hung up before I could respond. Within minutes, Tanya texted me the clubhouse payment details, followed by a string of heart emojis and thank yous. You're the best sister ever. I initiated the transfer, watching $12,000 vanish into the Evergreen Pines Clubhouse account. Then I opened my spreadsheet and added a new line. Engagement party deposit, $12,000. The running total made my stomach churn. Thursday brought more bills. The photographer wanted his deposit, $3,500. The band needed their guarantee, $4,000. The florist required 50% upfront, $6,000 for premium arrangements befitting the occasion. I paid them all, documenting every transfer, saving every receipt. My cloud folder grew thick with evidence of my compliance. But I was also documenting other things. Frank had called me Wednesday night, drunk and rambling about family honor and knowing my place. The recording captured every slurred threat, every guideline twisted into a weapon. Thursday afternoon, Mom left a voicemail detailing exactly how my selfishness had damaged their standing in the community and how this wedding was their redemption. I saved them all, labeled, dated, backed up in 3 locations. Friday night I worked late, trying to focus on actual work instead of the hemorrhaging of my savings. Around 9 my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello, Miss Hayes. A young female voice, hesitant. This is Ashley from the youth group. I sat straighter. How did you get my number? Phone directory at the clubhouse. I heard you were asking about the retreats. My pulse quickened. I mentioned them. Yes. Could we talk? Not on the phone. Somewhere private. Ashley, if something's wrong, you should talk to your parents or... No, the word came out sharp, scared. Not them. They won't. They think Coordinator Derek is wonderful. Everyone does. I closed my eyes. Where do you want to meet? The Dairy Queen on Route 6. It's far enough from town. Tomorrow morning. I'll be there at 10. Thank you. And Miss Hayes, come alone. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, mind racing. Then I grabbed my recorder and made a voice note detailing the call, the time, the request, just in case. Saturday morning came gray and drizzling. I arrived at the Dairy Queen early, choosing a corner booth with clear sightlines. Ashley showed up right on time, 17, maybe 18, blonde hair pulled back tight, wearing a modest dress despite the weather. Thank you for coming. She slid into the booth, glancing around nervously. I wasn't sure you would. You said this was about the retreats. She nodded, fingers shredding a napkin. They're not what parents think. Coordinator Derek, he has these sessions, trust exercises he calls them. I kept my voice gentle. What kind of exercises? Confessions. We have to share our sins, our impure thoughts in detail. Her voice dropped. He says it's to cleanse us. But the questions he asks, they're so specific about our bodies, our feelings, what we do when we're alone. My skin crawled, but I kept my expression neutral. Do other adults attend these sessions? No. He says it would inhibit our honesty. It's just him and whatever girls show up. She looked up, eyes wet. My friend Emma stopped going. Said it felt wrong. Coordinator Derek called her parents. Said she was showing signs of rebellion. Now she's in some camp in Utah for troubled teens. Ashley, have you told anyone else about this? Who would believe me? He's Victoria's son. He's engaged to your sister. She met my eyes. But then I heard you asked about the retreats at the cafe. Madison's mom said you were concerned. I thought maybe you'd understand. I reached across the table, covered her shaking hands with mine. I believe you. But Ashley, I need you to be careful. Don't confront him. Don't tell anyone we talked. Can you do that? She nodded quickly. I needed someone to know before more girls get hurt. You did the right thing. I squeezed her hands. I promise you. I'm going to. Going to what? She pulled back. You can't stop the wedding. You can't change anything. The whole community worships the Langfords. Maybe not. But I can make sure people know the truth when the time is right. She stared at me for a long moment, then stood. I should go. The engagement party's tonight. Mom will notice if I'm gone too long. Ashley, thank you for trusting me. She gave me a sad smile. My cousin lives in Denver. Says it's different there. That women can just be without all the rules and judgment and pretending everything's perfect. It is different. Must be nice. She walked away, shoulders hunched against More Than Rain. I sat there for another hour processing. No recording of that conversation. I wouldn't risk Ashley's safety. But I made detailed notes in my phone, adding them to my growing file. Another piece of the pattern. Another crack in the perfect facade. The engagement party started at 6. I arrived at 5:30 wearing the blue dress Mom had suggested. My smile painted on like armor. The clubhouse ballroom was transformed. White roses everywhere. Gold accents. Crystal chandeliers throwing light like scattered promises. Sabrina. Tanya floated over in a designer gown I definitely hadn't paid for yet. You look so appropriate. Even her compliments were insults. You look happy, I said, which was true. She was radiant, glowing with the certainty that she'd won something. Why wouldn't I be? Look at this. She gestured around the room, filling with Evergreen Pines elite. 6 months ago I was nobody. Now I'm going to be Mrs. Derek Langford. Is that what you want? To be Mrs. Somebody else. Her glow flickered. I want to matter. To have purpose. To be loved. You already matter. You have a nursing degree. You don't need. Stop. She gripped my arm. Nails sharp through the fabric. This is my night. My choice. my future. And you paid for it, so you don't get to ruin it with your bitter feminist speeches. She walked away, leaving crescent marks on my arm. I watched her rejoin Derek. Watched him whisper something that made her laugh. Watched his hands slide low on her back, possessive and controlling. The party swirled on. I made nice with community members who looked at me with pity and judgment. I congratulated the Langfords who accepted my money with gracious condescension. I listened to toast after toast about true love and community standards and the blessing of a proper HOA marriage. Frank found me during the band's break, breath sour with champagne. Beautiful party, he said, standing too close. Your money well spent. Tanya seems happy. She is. We all are. When family supports family, everyone benefits. His hand landed on my shoulder, right on the bruise from Sunday. I couldn't help flinching. He smiled, still tender. You should be more careful. Wouldn't want people thinking something inappropriate happened. No, I agreed, meeting his eyes. We wouldn't want that. He squeezed harder, then released me. Enjoy the party. After all, you're paying for it. I lasted another hour before escaping to the parking lot in my car. I pulled out my recorder and detailed everything. Ashley's story, Tanya's desperation, Frank's threats, the whole glittering evening built on secrets and paid for with my savings. 23,000 so far. More bills coming. A wedding still months away. But I had something they didn't know about. A folder full of recordings. A pattern of behavior documented and dated. And now a young woman's truth that explained exactly why Derek Langford wanted a wife who'd been trained to never question, never resist, never say no. I drove home through empty streets. My phone buzzing with texts thanking me for my generosity and reminding me about upcoming payments. Each message another piece of evidence. Another nail in a coffin they were building themselves. They wanted my money. They'd get it. Every penny necessary to keep their trust. To stay close enough to document their decay. Because Ashley was right. I couldn't stop the wedding. But I could make sure that when it all came crashing down, everyone would hear exactly why. Sunday board meeting at the clubhouse was a special kind of torture. I sat 3 rows from the front, wedged between Mom and Tanya, feeling the weight of 200 eyes on my back. The engagement party had been the talk of the community, and everyone knew who'd paid for it. Victoria commanded the podium like a general surveying her troops. Today's presentation, The Virtuous Community Woman, a Guide for Modern Times. Community Guideline 31. She began, voice resonating through the hall. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Beside me, Tanya sat straighter, glowing with the certainty that this presentation was about her, or who she was about to become. But what does virtue mean in today's world? Victoria's eyes swept the audience, lingering on the unmarried women. On me. Some would have you believe it means independence, career success, self-sufficiency. But our guidelines tell us otherwise. She launched into her interpretation. Virtue meant submission, meant supporting godly men, meant knowing one's place in the HOA order. With each point, I felt the audience's approval radiating like heat. Murmurs of well said and amen to that punctuated her words. A virtuous woman understands sacrifice, she continued. She gives not from her excess but from her essence. She supports her family not grudgingly, but with joy because she knows that in lifting others, she fulfills her purpose. Mom nudged me. A clear gesture of even the president agrees you should pay for this wedding. But there are those among us, her voice dropped, became intimate, who struggle with this calling, who put worldly success above family unity, who question instead of trust, who record instead of reconcile. My blood chilled. She couldn't know. I've been careful. Hidden the devices. Uploaded everything privately. These lost souls need our prayers, she said, staring directly at me. They need guidance back to the path because a community divided cannot stand and a family fractured by pride cannot heal. The presentation went on for another 40 minutes. Each word another stone in the wall they were building around me. By the time she finished, I felt flayed, exposed. The community's judgment pressed down like a physical weight. After the meeting, I tried to escape quickly, but Victoria intercepted me at the door. "Sabrina, dear," she said, her smile sharp as winter. "Such a powerful message today, wasn't it? Very instructive. I have such a gift for reaching the lost." She touched my arm, gentle as a snake. "I'm particularly concerned about influences that might corrupt our young people. Negative influences. Questioning influences. I'm sure you are." Her grip tightened. "You know, dear, marriage isn't for everyone. Paul himself said it's better to remain single than to burn with passion. Perhaps that's your calling, eternal singleness. Away from here, where your lifestyle won't confuse impressionable minds. My lifestyle. Living alone. Working with men. Drinking in public." She smiled wider. "We've all seen the photos from your office parties. Such worldly behavior. But then cities do corrupt, don't they?" She glided away, leaving me standing in the clubhouse doorway, fury and fear warring in my chest. They'd been investigating me, gathering ammunition. That evening, Mom called another family meeting, another ambush in the living room. But this time Derek joined them. He sat beside Tanya on the love seat, one hand possessively on her knee, the other holding a leather portfolio. "We need to discuss the wedding timeline," Frank announced, "and the associated costs." Derek opened the portfolio, revealing an itemized list that made my engagement party payments look like pocket change. "Mother believes a June wedding would be ideal. The clubhouse will be available, and it gives us time to plan something truly worthy of community glory." "How much?" I asked, cutting through the pretense. "The total budget is $150,000, he said smoothly. "Your family's contribution would be $90,000 as discussed." $90,000? On top of what I've already paid. "The engagement party was separate," Mom said quickly. "This is for the wedding itself. Venue, flowers, catering, music, photography, videography, transportation. Tanya's dress alone is $12,000, Derek added. "It's being custom made by a community-approved designer in Dallas. Very modest, very elegant, very expensive." "You can afford it," Tanya said, her voice hard. "We've seen your bank statements." The room went silent. I stared at my sister, processing. "You've seen my bank statements?" She had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Mom needed to know you weren't lying about the money, so I used that banking app you set up for me in college. You never changed the password." Betrayal tasted like copper in my mouth. "You accessed my private financial information." "Family doesn't have secrets," Frank said firmly. "Your money is a community resource. We needed to ensure you weren't hiding assets that could help Tanya's future." "That's illegal. That's fraud." "It's love," Mom corrected. "Doing what's necessary to secure your sister's happiness. You should understand that considering how we've supported your choices." "My choices? Living in sin in Denver. Working in a male-dominated field. Rejecting every decent man who showed interest." She counted on her fingers. "We've defended you, made excuses for you, prayed for you. The least you can do is ensure Tanya doesn't suffer for your rebellion." I stood, needing distance from their toxic logic. "So you violated my privacy, accessed my accounts, and now you're demanding $90,000. "We're asking you to invest in family," Derek said, his coordinator voice all reasonable. "Consider it your wedding gift to us." "To us?" I looked between him and Tanya. "You mean to you? Because from what I can see, this whole production is about buying your way into Mommy's dynasty." Derek's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold underneath. Careful. Sabrina. Your bitterness is showing. You know what else is showing? I pulled out my phone. This banking alert from Thursday. Someone tried to transfer $50,000 from my savings to an unknown account. Unsuccessfully because I have safeguards. Want to explain that? Tanya? My sister went pale. We were just checking if you could steal from me directly? It's not stealing. She stood too. Tears starting. It's what you owe me. For all the years I had to live in your shadow. Had to hear about perfect Sabrina with her perfect job and her perfect independence. Do you know what it's like being the failure? The one who needed her sister's charity? The one who will never measure up. So you thought theft would even the score. I thought family would matter more than money. She was crying now. Mascara running. But it doesn't, does it? Nothing matters to you except being right, being superior, being alone. Tanya, I'm pregnant. The words detonated in the room. Mom gasped. Frank stood. Derek's hand tightened on Tanya's arm. 10 weeks, she continued, chin raised in defiance. So yes, we need this wedding. We need it fast. And we need it big. And we need everyone to see that I'm not some small-town girl who got knocked up. I'm going to be Mrs. Derek Langford, and our baby will be born into respectability. Unless you'd rather see your niece or nephew branded a bastard. The manipulation was breathtaking. I looked at each of them. Mom's calculated shock. Frank's righteous anger. Derek's possessive satisfaction. They'd known. They'd all known and saved this ammunition for maximum impact. Congratulations, I said quietly. I hope you'll be very happy. So you'll pay? Mom pressed. For the baby's sake. I smiled. Cold as Victoria's community charity. I'll continue the payments I've already committed to. The rest you'll have to find another way. You selfish. Frank stepped forward, fist clenched. Frank, Derek's voice cut through. Not here. Not now. He looked at me, and I saw Victoria's calculated threat in his son's eyes. Sabrina will come to understand her obligations. Won't you? It wasn't a question. I understand perfectly, I said, gathering my purse. You've made everything crystal clear. I left them there. Tanya sobbing about betrayal while carrying her own betrayal in her womb. In my car I called my bank. Changed every password. Added fraud alerts to all my accounts. Then I pulled out my recorder and documented everything. The pregnancy bombshell, the theft attempt, Frank's near violence. They wanted to talk about obligations? Fine. But they'd forgotten that obligations run both ways. And my obligation now was to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of community values the Langfords really represented. The wedding might be moving faster now, racing against Tanya's expanding waistline, but my recordings were mounting faster. Every threat, every manipulation, every moment of their true selves revealed. June wedding. A perfect date that gave me 3 months to build an airtight case. 3 months to document their decay. 3 months until everyone learned why staying single wasn't my failure. It was my salvation. The wedding invitations arrived in May, 3 weeks before the ceremony. I pulled the envelope from my mailbox, noting the expensive paper, the hand-addressed script. Inside, cream cardstock with gold embossing announced the blessed union of Derek and Tanya, followed by a reception at the Evergreen Pines clubhouse. My name wasn't on it. I read it twice, then checked the envelope again. Current resident, not MS. Sabrina Hayes or sister of the bride. Just current resident. Like I was anyone. No one. My phone rang before I'd even reached my apartment door. Tanya, did you get the invitation? Aren't they beautiful? Victoria supervised every detail. My name isn't on it. Silence. Then, oh, that must be a mistake. A mistake? Like the banking fraud. Brina, please don't make this about you. I'm not invited to your wedding. The wedding I've paid $47,000 for. Of course you're invited. She rushed the words. Your name must have been accidentally left off the official list. You know how these things happen. Do I? Can we talk about this in person? I'm at Mom's. We're doing wedding planning. No, I cut her off. We can talk about it now. Am I invited to your wedding or not? Another pause. In the background I heard Mom's voice, Frank's rumble, the clink of coffee cups. You're invited, Tanya said finally. But there are conditions. Conditions. Victoria feels your presence might be disruptive, given your hostility toward the family. My hostility? I've bankrolled this entire production. Money isn't support. Sabrina, you've made your disapproval clear. The things you've said about Derek, about the clubhouse, about our values, about the youth retreats where your fiancé interrogates teenage girls about their bodies. Stop it. Her voice went shrill. See, this is exactly what we're talking about. You can't help yourself. You have to tear down everything pure and good because I'm what? Jealous? Bitter? Alone? She spat each word like a curse. You're invited, but you'll sit in the back. You'll wear something modest. You won't speak to anyone about your concerns. You won't make a scene. You won't ruin this for me. Or don't come at all. Your money's already spent. We don't need anything else from you. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, invitation in hand, processing the naked truth of it. They wanted me invisible, compliant, present enough that people couldn't gossip about my absence, but silenced enough that I couldn't contaminate their perfect day with reality. I set the invitation on my counter and opened my laptop. My cloud storage contained 73 files now. Audio recordings, screenshots, bank transfers, photographs, a digital museum of their manipulation. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Wednesday brought another call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Listen to her practice disappointment. Sabrina, this is your mother. Tanya told me about your conversation. I'm disappointed in your selfishness. This is her day, her moment, and you're making it about you again. If you can't support your sister properly, perhaps it's best you don't attend. Let me know by Friday. The seating chart needs to be finalized. I saved the voicemail, added it to my collection. Then I called Ashley. We met at the same Dairy Queen, same corner booth. She looked thinner, shadows under her eyes. Are you okay? I asked. She shrugged. Emma's parents got a letter from the camp. She's responding well to treatment, whatever that means. I'm sorry. She was the smart one, getting out. Ashley stirred her blizzard without eating. The retreats are getting worse. Last week coordinator Derek had us do trust falls where we had to catch each other, except he was the only one allowed to catch certain girls. Said we needed to learn to submit to godly male authority. My skin crawled. Ashley, I know. Be careful. Don't tell anyone. But what's the point of being careful if nothing changes? Things are going to change after the wedding. She looked up sharply. After? Why not before? Because I need them to feel safe. Confident. I need the whole community watching when the truth comes out. The truth. She laughed, bitter for someone so young. You know what Victoria presented about last Sunday? The dangers of gossip. How Satan uses whispers and recordings to destroy godly men. Almost like she knows something's coming. A chill ran down my spine. She said recordings specifically? 3 times. Went on about how true community members handle conflicts face to face, not through technology. Mom came home and made us all delete our social media apps. Said the president knows best. She was preparing. Inoculating her congregation against whatever might surface. Smart. But not smart enough. Ashley, I need you to do something for me, I said. I need you to skip the wedding. What? Make an excuse. Be sick. Visit relatives. Anything. Just don't be there. Her eyes widened. What are you planning? Nothing that involves you. But I don't want you caught in the aftermath. Can you do that? She nodded slowly. My aunt in Nebraska. I could visit her. Good. Leave Friday night. Don't come back until Sunday. MS. Hayes, Sabrina, be careful. The Langfords. They don't just destroy reputations. Remember what happened to the last youth coordinator who disagreed with them. I did remember. Heart attack at 35. Perfectly healthy man. Community called it community judgment on his liberal ideas. I'll be fine, I said, projecting more confidence than I felt. Ashley left first. I waited 20 minutes, then drove to an electronics store 2 towns over. Paid cash for a small Bluetooth speaker, high quality, portable, the kind that could fill a clubhouse with sound. Thursday Tanya called again. Her voice was different. Harder, colder. Mom must have coached her. Have you decided about the wedding? I'll be there, I said. Good. Your invitation will be at the door, back left section. Row 15. You'll enter through the side door after the processional starts. Minimal disruption. Of course. Wouldn't want to disrupt anything. And Sabrina, Derek's cousin, is a lawyer. He wanted me to remind you that Colorado is a 2-party consent state for recordings, just in case you had any misunderstandings about privacy laws. They knew. Somehow they knew. Thanks for the reminder. Tell Derek I appreciate his concern for my legal education. This isn't a game, she snapped. This is my life. My baby's life. Our family's future. Whatever you think you're doing, stop. Please, for once in your life, think about someone besides yourself. That's all I've been doing, I said quietly. Thinking about you. About those girls. About what happens when powerful people face no consequences. Derek is a good man. Then he has nothing to worry about. She hung up. I sat in my apartment surrounded by wedding bills and recording equipment and made my final preparations. Bank statements showing the full tally. $61,000 paid over 3 months. Audio files backed up to 3 separate cloud services. A manila envelope addressed to the Denver Post's investigative unit to be mailed Monday morning. Friday afternoon I drove to Evergreen Pines one last time before the wedding. Not to Mom's house, but to the clubhouse. The parking lot was empty except for a single car, Victoria's black Mercedes. I sat in my car, watching the building that had shaped so much misery, wondering how many girls had suffered in silence behind those pristine white walls. How many families had been broken by the weight of impossible standards? How many secrets were buried beneath that sanctified ground? Tomorrow Tanya would walk down that aisle in her $12,000 dress carrying Derek's baby and the weight of our family's desperate grab for respectability. The whole community would watch, would celebrate, would pretend not to notice the timeline between wedding and birth. And I would sit in the back, invisible and silent, with a small speaker in my purse and 9 months of recordings ready to play. They thought they'd won. Thought they'd successfully extracted my money and neutralized my voice. Thought threatening me with lawyers and isolation would keep their secrets safe. They were wrong. Because tomorrow, when Victoria asked if anyone had reason why these two should not be joined, I wouldn't speak. I'd simply press play and let the truth speak for itself. Saturday, June 15th. The wedding day dawned perfect. Clear Colorado sky, gentle breeze, the kind of weather people call blessed. I dressed carefully in my apartment, choosing a simple navy dress that would blend into the shadows of the back row. The Bluetooth speaker fit perfectly in my clutch purse, along with my phone loaded with the most damning audio files. I arrived at the clubhouse early, parking on a side street where my car wouldn't be noticed. The main lot was already filling with guests. Evergreen Pines elite in their Sunday best, ready to witness the social event of the year. Through the clubhouse's glass doors I could see the floral arrangements I'd paid for, white roses and gold ribbons transforming the hall into something from a magazine. The side door was unlocked as promised. I slipped inside, finding my designated seat, back row, left side, partially hidden behind a pillar. From here I could see the altar but would be invisible to most of the community. Perfect for the unwanted sister who'd financed this spectacle. Guests began filing in and I watched Evergreen Pine's hierarchy arrange itself in the pews. The Langfords' inner circle claimed the front rows. Board members, business owners, the community manager. Behind them, the regular residents. Faces I recognized from years of mandatory meetings. They greeted each other with practiced warmth, gossiping and holy whispers about the beautiful day, the flowers, the rumors about why the wedding had been moved up. Nobody looked at me. I might as well have been a ghost. At exactly 2 p.m., the music swelled with the opening notes of Pachelbel's canon. The processional began. Groomsmen in matching gray suits, bridesmaids in pale gold dresses that had cost me $3,000 each. Derek entered from the side, taking his place at the altar with practiced solemnity. His mother stood ready to officiate the community blessing, rulebook in hand, wearing the expression of a woman about to claim victory. Then the music shifted to the wedding march, and everyone stood. Tanya appeared in the doorway, a vision in white silk and delusion. The $12,000 dress did its job, disguising the slight swell of her stomach, making her look like every small-town girl's dream of purity. Frank walked beside her, puffed with pride at giving away a stepdaughter to such an important family. As they passed my row, Tanya's eyes found mine for just a moment. I saw triumph there, mixed with something else, fear, warning. Then she passed, floating toward her future while I sat in the shadows with mine. Dearly beloved, Victoria began, her voice filling the hall. We are gathered here today to witness the holy union of Derek Michael Langford and Tanya Marie Klein. What the community joins together, let no one tear asunder. The ceremony proceeded with rehearsed perfection. Readings about submission and honor, hymns about faithfulness and duty. Derek's cousin sang the prayer, hitting every note while his lawyer eyes swept the audience like he was cataloging witnesses. I waited, hand resting on my purse, feeling the weight of the moment approaching. Victoria reached the crucial moment. If anyone here has just cause why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. The hall held its breath. This was the moment in movies where something dramatic happens, but in real life nobody ever. I stood. A ripple of shock went through the community. Heads turned, searching for the source of disruption. Victoria's face went rigid. Sabrina, she said, voice carefully controlled. Sit down. I reached into my purse, pulled out the speaker, held it high enough for everyone to see. I have something everyone needs to hear, I said, my voice carrying in the hushed space. This is highly inappropriate. Frank started forward, but I pressed play before he could reach me. My own voice filled the hall, tinny but clear through the speaker. Victoria, I'm concerned about the youth retreats. Some parents have questions. Then Victoria's voice, dismissive and cold. Questions from bitter women who can't accept their daughters need firm guidance. Derek knows how to handle young girls. They need a strong male presence to correct their wayward thoughts. I clicked to the next file. Frank's drunken rambling. She thinks she's better than us, but the president told me how to handle her. Put her in her place. Sometimes a firm hand is the only thing these independent types understand. And if she keeps running her mouth about Derek and those girls, the community stirred, murmurs rising. I clicked again. Derek's voice now from a recording Ashley had bravely made during a retreat. Tell me about your impure thoughts. Madison, in detail. The community needs to know everything to cleanse you. Have you touched yourself? Where? How often? Show me on this doll where temptation strikes you. Turn that off. Victoria roared. But I raised the volume. Another click. Mom's voice, cold and calculating. She'll pay. She has to. We've seen her bank statements. She has more than enough. And if she refuses, Frank will handle it. A few bruises, nothing visible. She'll learn her place. The murmurs became gasps, then shouts. Parents were standing, faces twisted with rage and recognition. Some rushed toward the altar, toward Derek. Others grabbed their daughters, heading for the exits. Lies, Victoria shouted over the chaos. Fabricated recordings. This woman is disturbed. Jealous. I played the final file, Victoria herself, from our private meeting. Sign the pledge, Sabrina, or I'll destroy you. Your career, your reputation, everything. I've done it before. That youth coordinator who questioned me, heart attack was the official cause. But there are many ways to stop a heart. Stress. Fear. The right pressure in the right places. The hall erupted. The community manager was on his phone calling for backup. Parents were screaming, demanding answers. Someone shoved Derek and he stumbled into the flower arrangements, white roses scattering like ash. Through it all, Tanya stood frozen at the altar. Her perfect dress, her perfect day, her perfect delusion crumbling around her. She stared at me across the chaos, and I saw the moment she understood. This wasn't about jealousy or bitterness. This was about saving her from becoming another woman silenced by powerful people. You ruined everything, she mouthed, tears streaming down her face. No, they had ruined everything. I just made sure everyone could hear it. Frank pushed through the crowd, face purple with rage, fist raised. But before he could reach me, two men from the community grabbed him, holding him back. One of them was Madison's father, and his face promised retribution of a different kind. My daughter, he growled at Frank. My little girl was in those retreats. I slipped out during the chaos, leaving the speaker playing on repeat. In my car, I pulled out my phone and uploaded every file to social media, tagging local news stations, the state attorney general, the FBI tip line. By the time I reached the county line, the first news van was probably already racing toward Evergreen Pines. My phone exploded with calls and texts, but I ignored them all except one. Ashley, safe in Nebraska. Thank you. I pulled over at a rest stop, finally allowing myself to shake. $61,000 spent on a wedding that would never happen. But as I watched the first news reports pop up on my phone, Colorado HOA rocked by abuse allegations, I knew it was the best investment I'd ever made. They'd wanted my money to buy their way into respectability. Instead, it had bought the truth, a platform they couldn't silence. I sat there until sunset, watching the story spread across social media like wildfire. Parents sharing their daughters' stories, former residents coming forward, years of silence breaking like a dam. Tomorrow there would be investigations, arrests probably, definitely lawsuits. The Langford's empire would crumble, and Frank would face his own reckoning. Mom would have to choose between her daughter and her delusions. And Tanya would have to decide who she wanted to be. A woman who enabled predators for the sake of status, or a mother who protected children from them. As for me, I started my car and headed home to Denver. To my single life, my empty apartment, my career they'd mocked, and my independence they'd tried to destroy. It had never felt more valuable. Because staying single hadn't made me bitter. It had kept me free. Free to see clearly. Free to speak truth. Free to stand up in a clubhouse full of complicit silence and press play on the words they thought would stay buried. Stay single, I told Tanya once. Now she knew why. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't what they want. It's showing them what they need to see.